Hey, this is Corey Barnes.
And this is Lisa Caperton. And you're listening to Her Turn to Talk,
a podcast about women.
For women.
Since when do you love to dance around?
Only in my house.
What the?
Not in public.
I want to dance with you.
I like to go and be a ballerina. I used to do it more in the past than I do now.
I have to go to your house to experience this kind of stuff.
We do it with the kids, and I'm not good at it. It's not something
I'm not good at it either, but I like to dance. Like I'm some professional dancer? No. I just want to dance with you.
But it's put to this song, and I make Ryan, I make my son reenact it with me. So we play the music. I make him stand beside me, and we pretend we're the goat. So we'll play it and then walk into the room.
What I would do to be a fly on the wall. But he does it with a huge.
Jacob won't do it, but Ryan will do it with me. He's my sidekick.
There's a whole side to you. I didn't even effing know. Gosh.
He's super silly with me, and I love it. Okay.
Ryan.
Anyways. I guess we should have talked about that on the show. I guess we are kind of on the show already, if we want to be.
We're on it.
Hi.
Hello, Lisa.
What's up?
Enjoying this lovely Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
Were you looking at me? I thought I'm enjoying my. Yes, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
I'm just realizing that we're almost just 2 weeks out of Halloween, and my kids haven't told me what they want to be for Halloween. This is bizarre. Usually, I would have already taken them shopping and been on top of it.
Yeah.
I mean, the decorations have been up since September 30th.
Yeah.
But, you know what, though? I did watch the other day, or I tried to. Have you, okay, first of all, what is or was the most scariest movie you saw as a kid?
Ooh. Freddy Krueger was pretty scary.
Yeah.
That movie Ticks. I would not camp after that one.
I did not see that, but
It's
my
terrible.
God, Jacob is has a phobia, so afraid of ticks. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to tell him there's a movie I kind of made him make him watch it. But so mine was Pet Sematary, the original.
I didn't see
Pet
that till much later on.
Okay, it used to scare the crap out of me, specifically the sister, and she's like, Rachel! She's all twisted.
You've told me about her.
Yeah, she haunts me. That
There's a new one. We got to go see that.
Yeah, well, no, I
happen?
watched it. We have it at home, and
It's already out on DVD.
yeah, it's
lame.
I couldn't get into it.
Boo.
It just wasn't. Yeah, and I don't know if that's because the first one had such an impact on me, but I couldn't get into the new version. But I know, I don't know. Anyways,
Halloween.
Halloween time. I'm excited for it. It's one of my favorite times.
I'm already thinking about Thanksgiving.
I am too. I'm already thinking about Christmas, but I think that's because we're doing a possible road trip.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm not super excited about the actual road tripping part of it, but we'll figure out that when we get there.
You got a badass woman for us this week?
I got a badass woman for us, yes.
Let's hear it. What's her name?
So, Diane Fossey. I think that's how you say it. Who dat? So, okay, good. I feel like some people probably are out there and they know who she is already. And if I said her name wrong, I'm sorry. You can correct us. But she is an American zoologist and conservationist.
I see.
Well, she was. She has since passed. So this tale, Corey, is about murder.
Did a monkey kill her?
No.
I'm reading about her. She used to hang out with mountain gorilla groups.
Yeah, so gorillas specifically. So that's
Did a gorilla murder her?
I don't think so. She was trying to protect them.
Oh.
But so we'll get there. We'll get there.
Sorry.
So she actually went to school and was going to do business stuff or something. Her stepfather convinced her she needed to go to business school. Then she went and went on a farm, I think, and kind of worked with horses and things and kind of rekindled her love of animals. And so she was going to do try to get into vet school and do that route. And then I think she had problems with some of the studies. And so then she ended up being like going into occupational therapy. But then, so her dream was to go to Africa. And so she ended up spending her entire life savings and taking out a loan to go to Africa. So she like did this tour with a guide, and she ended up meeting other like scientists and conservationists out there.
In the Congo even.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And she just fell in love. And she fell in love with the gorillas specifically. And so she ended up coming back to America, and then eventually hooked up with some other scientist person. I know this is real technical, but they ended
Not
up
as
being
technical
able
as Dr.
to like
Swain and her molecular biology stuff. Keep going.
and so she ended up being able to get funded to go back and study gorillas. And she ended up opening a research center there.
Wow.
And so she was
work.
like a huge activist in studying them, but she also wrote the book Gorillas in the Mist that the movie was based off of with Sigourney Weaver. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but she's the author of Gorillas in the Mist, and that's like about her. And so she's done a lot of work of like studying, like living and watching and being amongst the gorillas. And she worked with like Jane Goodall before and some other, yeah. And so there, at one point she had to like flee and get out because there was a civil war there, and she escaped and got back. But eventually what happened with her is they ended up finding her murdered in her cabin. Are you reading that? You're making a face.
Yeah. Brutal.
So it was a pretty brutal murder. And there's some controversy over it because people aren't real sure like who did it. Some people think it's the poachers, because she used to actually like destroy their traps and mess with their dog, like the hunting dogs, and try to protect the gorillas, of course. And so a lot of people think because of that work that she was doing to stop them, that it could have been poachers who did it. But then there was actually someone, his name, let me see if I found it. I found a lot of this information on Wikipedia and like biography.com. But there was a person named Wayne McGuire who was tried and convicted for a murder. And the motive for that, they say, was that he murdered her in order to steal her manuscript of her sequel to The Gorillas in the Mist. And that he wanted to actually, he was having trouble with his own research, so he wanted to like steal her research, basically. Wow. But he was able to return to the U.S., and because of there was no extradition treaty at that time, I don't know if there is now, he never served anything. Wow. And so that there's still speculation as to whether or not he really did it. So we don't know. Yeah. But I just thought that was
sketchy.
Yeah, pretty sketchy. And I thought that she was pretty interesting. Like, it was this whole path of, trying to find herself, going to these different schoolings and doing these different things, and then following her dream of like, she knew she had a calling. She knew she needed to go to Africa. Yeah. She made it happen.
She did all that by 53 years old.
Yeah, and she did a lot of work, and she convinced her second time to go back. Like, she wrote all these articles because she met up with some like wildlife photographers there the first time that took her, and she was able to take all these photographs of the gorillas and study them, and like they were coming, eventually they trusted her. But she wrote all this stuff and used that, like just went and sought out people. It was like, look at this stuff I've done, and to get back there so she could, fulfill that dream. Aww. But that's my badass woman. I thought she sounded pretty cool.
Pictures of her like cuddling with the
I know. Now it makes me want to go read the Gorillas in the Mist book. But anyway, so... And also, Corey, did you see this morning? I got super excited because I seen that we had an email from our contact us page. Yeah. And it was spam.
Yep.
So
I was going to respond to our first spam.
I know. So listeners,
we'll get a lot more of that.
Seriously, you'd make 2 women's days if you just contacted us. That's all we want. We just want a hi, hello, what you like, what you don't, a story, anything. So you can contact us at herturntotalkpodcast.com.
The most amazingly Lisa Caperton.
Hello. All right, this feels very vulnerable and very odd to be the one over here. But
welcome on the show.
Thanks. It's nice to be
great.
here.
You look great. You comfy in the big white chair over
I
there?
am.
I love that chair. That's the princess chair.
It
It's
is.
fit for a princess.
Yeah,
Like you.
a boss.
You're like a queen.
I'm a boss, bitch. I'm serious. Go ahead.
You are a boss bitch. You're not a bit. You're a boss bitch. Anyway. So glad you're here. This is exciting.
Yes.
So I'd like to get a little, we want to get to know you a little bit better.
All right.
So why don't we go ahead and talk about, so where are you from?
I love that radio voice. Okay. I was born in Fort Worth, Texas. Lived there pretty much my whole life until I was, I guess, 21. Then moved to Austin, Texas, and then lived there up until about 5 years ago. And then we moved here to Colorado.
Mm-hmm. And so what was growing up? Do you have brothers, sisters? You got cats and dogs?
Yes, everything. No sisters, but, okay, ready?
Ready.
So it's very confusing even for myself. So, okay, I do have a brother, that is 7 years older than me. And then I have had along the way many step siblings. I know I've had step brothers. I think I might have had a stepsister. I know that sounds weird, but I don't know if I can't remember. I feel like I did, but I don't think I knew her very well. That's because my dad has been married 7 times. And my mom is my dad's first wife and is now currently his 7th wife.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
If you want to say that.
And so what was that like? Were you so you weren't moving all around a lot. Did you stay in the same neighborhoods? Were you
no,
at the same
so
house?
when we grew up, so we were pretty poor people. But when I came along, I guess we lived with my grandfather, so my dad's dad in his house, all of us. And then
all the 7 wives.
No, we're not polygamy. They weren't all consecutive.
Okay. Good to clarify.
But so they and I think my parents got divorced when I was like 2. I guess I would have been somewhere around there. But then I do know that my dad, I think, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he got remarried literally a week or 2 after they divorced. And so he went, that was wife number 1, and he moved out with her, and me and my mom, my brother stayed living with his dad. But I don't think that marriage lasted very long. And she had sons, so I know I had some step brothers. I don't remember a lot about that time.
Yeah.
But then I know my dad came back, so then they were kind of all living together, but they were not married, I assume. I don't know. And then I think my mom and me and my brother, we moved out. So then we moved in with her mom in Burleson, Texas. And that's where Kelly Clarkson is from, just so you know. Name drop. I don't know her, but so we lived in Burleson for a while. And then my mom actually got an apartment. So we lived in a little town called Crowley, Texas, in government funded apartments with me, my mom, my brother. And then my dad was off doing his thing and accumulating some different wives. And then we would, I would go see him. My brother was much older, so he was doing his own thing. Wasn't really around.
Are we still talking between the ages of 2 and 5 right now? Or?
No, I don't know. It's so confusing that I don't even remember necessarily all my. I was definitely in elementary school. I think, you know what? I think I remember being in that apartment in 2nd grade because I remember my 2nd grade teacher's name was Mrs. Onsball. And I remember that name because she used to put that as a bonus on spelling tests because it was a weird, hard name to spell. And then I also remember when I think we moved there then because I'm pretty sure I was living at my grandma's house for a time. And I remember this one time that we had where's like clean up trash, right? And if you cleaned up all the trash, whoever cleaned up the most trash in the classroom got a prize. And Corey, I wanted that freaking prize so bad. It was like a stuffed parrot. And I was dishonest, and I would like take the trash I had already picked up and like throw it on the floor, pretend like I was picking it up again, so it looked like I was
Clever.
like picking up a lot of trash. That's so terrible. I just had that memory just now.
Do you have any
But
other?
I won the thing.
You won.
I won the parrot.
You won. That's great. Do you have any other childhood memories of something that was really fun or funny or
fun or funny? I don't
something
know.
that came? Did you have a lot of friends growing up?
No, so like I said, we were pretty poor, and it was a pretty obviously unstable household. There was a lot of stuff going on, and so I would not say that I was a popular kid. I quite often had lice. I remember thinking as a kid at one point,
get lice? You got to be rolling around in a dog bed or something? Like, how do you get lice?
No, you get it from other people.
lice.
Other kids that have it.
Where does it even originate from?
I don't know where it originates from, but I did have, because I got sent home like twice in 1 year, and I was like crying. I was always in the nurse. There was always something going on with me, but I do remember this sweet nurse telling me, because I was, so embarrassing. And she told me, said, and I think this is true, but she said that lice only like to live in clean heads.
Oh.
And so she was like, your head is very clean. So I don't know. She didn't want me to feel dirty. I don't know. But anyway, so I was not very popular. And kids are mean sometimes. And yeah. And so I wasn't. And so then I think in and I got held back a year because I wasn't doing very well. There was, a lot of stuff, a lot of not great stuff going on at our home. And so I didn't do well in school. And so I did get held back. And so kind of around that time was the same time I mentioned before, I lived with my mom, and then she had a bunch of stuff happen, and she left. And so it was like I came home from school one day and she was gone, and I was told, you're going to go live with your dad. And so that's what happened. And I went to live with him. And so when I went to live with him, I had to switch schools. And I was able to kind of, I feel like, change a little, like, because those kids didn't really know me. And so before, I felt like I was pretty quiet and shy. And then at the new school, I tried to, I have a lot of more friends at the new school, I felt like. And I felt like I made some friends that were popular just by being nice, I think.
Did you do any extracurricular activities, like in high school?
No, we couldn't
any music,
afford
nothing?
to do that stuff.
Yeah.
That didn't happen. I did take 1 year because my dad was married to a woman who she had some money. Not like she wasn't rich. I think now I look at it and I'm like, oh, she just had a normal house. But to me, I thought she felt rich. But at that time, that's the lady I had to go live with. And they put me in gymnastics 1 year, and I got to play softball that year. I was terrible at both. I was like the kid in the left field playing with the grass, and never did anything. But so anyways, I did make some more friends, and was able to, I wasn't like super popular, but I felt like I had friends that I would have said that they were the popular girls. Do you know what I mean? And that made me feel good. And I would get to go to their houses a lot. And it was always nice to be able to go to other people's houses. Because at that time, then my dad divorced that woman, and then we had to end up moving back with my grandpa. Yeah. And that house was not great. Yeah. And so it was like pretty embarrassing. So I didn't really I had like just close people over that I felt like I could trust, but they all had really nice houses, and I felt like everybody's parents were pretty welcoming of me also. Yeah.
So I know you've been with your husband for over half your life. Did you meet him when you were young? How old
at
were
18.
You?
So we met at 18. Yes, at a party at his parents' house while his parents were out of town. He was throwing a party through a mutual friend, and so we met, and then pretty much from that point on, like, just didn't leave each other. I mean, trust me, like, there was some shit went down in the beginning, right? We weren't great, and there was, how things happen at that time. We were not necessarily in the best position to have a, very, I don't know, productive relationship, but we somehow managed to kind of, there was breakups and different things, but we kind of kept always coming back to each other.
And now how long have you been married?
So,
or how long have you been together?
Yeah, well, we were together for 7 years before we got engaged.
Wow.
And then now we have been married, I guess, coming up on 15 years.
15 years.
Yeah.
That's great. And you guys made it all the way here to Colorado.
Yeah.
How did you make it here? So you went through all these trials and just a what sounds like a challenging childhood. Not challenging, just not rough. That's
yeah. And you know what? I think a lot of it has to do with growing up, and then I do have to give a lot of credit to my husband and his family, who helped me and him a lot when we were first together and we were struggling in our own lives. And I think really it was like this pivotal moment of, we kind of moved, like his parents got jobs in Austin. And so we moved there. And it was like we were able to kind of change the way we were living and things that we were doing. And we got like real jobs. We got we had an apartment back in Fort Worth, but we were, not doing, it was like waiting tables and, and partying and not being responsible citizens necessarily. But when we got to Austin, I worked in like a human resources department, and then I was a teller at a bank.
What were you in your 20s at this point?
Yeah. And then
so growing up, right?
Yeah, so it was just slowly like starting to grow up and like, okay, how do I do this? And then it was, I dropped out of high school because I think I was probably I think I might have been 11th grade, and it was like I said, my dad was on wife number 5 at the time, and I was living, and it was just things weren't going well, and it was just nobody, I was just like, okay, I don't need this. I'm not, this isn't gonna happen, or and so I had dropped out, and then then I was able to like get my GED. I didn't even get a driver's license until I was 21, and then it was like once I was able to slowly just kind of piece my life back together. And then it was like, oh, okay, you can do something with yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But a lot of it, I do have to say, is just having support from everyone.
So you were still in Austin when you were pregnant with your first baby?
Mm-hmm. Both of my kids are born in Austin.
Okay, so you and your husband, you get married. How
Yes.
how much longer did you wait until you had your first kid?
So we actually got pregnant on our 1-year anniversary. We went to Cozumel for our 1-year anniversary. This is kind of a funny story. So we were in Cozumel, and everybody was teasing us on the island. They're like, oh, this is the island of fertility. And we're like, okay, whatever. And then like one of the guys that worked at the hotel, who we would see outside all the time, would always tease us about that. Like, everybody gets pregnant here. Everybody gets pregnant. And then we went and visited some Mayan ruins, and they said that they were like to this fertility god, and they were like, if you touch the wall, you'll get pregnant. Just joking. Touch the wall. Sure as shit, later on, we get home, I'm pregnant. I got pregnant on that trip. Somewhere around there. I can't say for sure.
And so were you living in an apartment?
Yeah.
You guys are still living in an apartment. Okay, you're doing you both are working your big adult jobs now.
I was working. Got a job at a vet clinic. Actually, Danny was he wasn't going to college at that time. And so I was doing most of the bill paying and working at that point, and he was going to school. But yeah, so then we got pregnant, and we had just taken on a second dog. So we had 2 dogs and a cat in our apartment, found out we were pregnant. We had just bought brand new furniture. It was like the day we were shopping for our furniture. And his grandma was like, I was sick at their house, and she was like, I bet you're pregnant, just as a joke.
And were you like, okay, I want to be a mom, like I'm down with this, just whatever happens, or was this unexpected?
It was unexpected, totally unexpected.
Were you in shock? Were you surprised?
I had previously been told before, like, you're not going to, when you get ready to have kids, you need to come say, because I'd had some complications from some earlier issues. And so the doctor was like, you guys will have to work. It'll be some work. And so we actually hadn't been doing anything to prevent a pregnancy in years, and nothing had happened. And then all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe
touching that wall is a real deal.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, we had been shopping.
We gotta put a link to that.
I know. So we went to. So we were furniture shopping, and then we found we were pregnant, and then we're like, well, we probably should get a house, and so that's what we did. And then we found it. We bought our very first home, like brand new home, and then baby number one came.
Wow. So baby number one came.
Yep.
And were you? What was it like? You had a new house. There's all these new responsibilities.
It was hard.
You're both working at this point?
Yeah, we were. We were both working. It was really hard to have, and I had a little bit of like kind of some postpartum stuff going on. It wasn't like too bad, but I had gotten put on some antidepressants and everything, and so
what happens when? So I don't have any children personally, and I don't have many women in my life who have. I've been around, closely after birth. So could you tell me a little, do you mind sharing?
Yeah.
What postpartum is, what it was like?
Well, so with Jacob, that was our first one. And that, like I said, it wasn't too bad. It was mostly just a lot of crying. But then
just overwhelming emotions. Just.
But with Ryan is when, so our second child was born 17 months later. So they're 17 months apart. And so we had a toddler, and then here we are, we had baby number two. And so with him, it was full on, postpartum depression, which we knew that it was going to be happening because the doctor, we had taken preventative measures. I started taking an antidepressant before he came because we knew, since I had some issues with the first one, that might happen again with the second one. But I had zero idea how bad it could be.
And it sounds like it's all hormones behind it.
It's a lot of hormones, and it really messes with your brain chemistry. But so with Ryan, it was like my husband said that he knew something was going when he came home from work, and I said, "There's milk in the fridge." I had just been pumping and stockpiling, and I was like, "There's," and it quickly became where I could not stop crying, I could not sleep, I was having insane thoughts, like these thoughts of being convinced that the baby is crying on purpose to torture me, like that he's out to get me, and that is happening. And I would try to lay down, but it was like my body was twitching, and it was almost like I would compare it to what I would think somebody like the symptoms of restless leg or something. It was like my body was could not sit still, and so I wasn't sleeping. I was crying all the time. I wasn't eating. I couldn't.
Were you off from work at this time too?
Yeah,
Could you exercise? You could. I mean, it was all just focused on baby.
Well, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go. I couldn't. Finally, we went to the doctor, and I remember sitting in that lobby, and I couldn't stop crying all the time. That's all I did, and I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want anybody to touch. I didn't nobody, nothing. And I was in that lobby, and I remember they quickly put us in a room because I think I was scaring all the other expectant mothers in the room.
This shit's common.
Yeah,
this is very, very common.
And I just remember, I do think it's important to talk about because I remember. The doctor was able to help me, and my blood pressure was through the roof. And so they had to put me on blood pressure medication. I had to have a little portable thing that I had to monitor my blood pressure at home to make sure if it got certain levels, and then I'd have to go in. So it was biochemically, everything was things were happening in my body out of my control. But I think it's important to talk about because it was almost like I was having all of these thoughts and all of these emotions, but at the same time, there's a part of your brain that's also filled with shame because it's telling you, you shouldn't think this way. You shouldn't be feeling this way. This is wrong. But the other part, the overwhelming part, is taking over. And so it's like you're having this inner battle of how you should be. right?
Yeah, because
and you cannot be that way. Like
society,
no matter how hard you try, you can't. And so I ended up
projects this is supposed to be like a really beautiful, amazing time, and life is great. And I didn't really know much about it until I got older myself, but I didn't realize how common it was
that time, because I ended up going and I stayed a little bit with my mother-in-law, and thankfully, thank God we had a great support system, and like our families were able to help. My husband was able to take off work and help. And then my mom came and stayed with us to help.
How long did it go on for?
So I
look it up, it says will last from 3 to 5 days.
Oh yeah, no, not true. I don't believe that. Like there's something called the baby blues.
Oh, maybe that's what I'm reading about.
That is like you do get emotional and teary. Like all of that is normal. Like you gotta your everything's going crazy. But postpartum depression can last years.
Yeah.
And for me, I do believe it did. Because it was I eventually, I was back home, and it was a very slow process. It's a very slow process of being able to like take care of my baby and like be with him and like not, and it was like, okay, I can do this and I'm not crying, or I can do this step and I can do this step. And then eventually, I don't know when it happened, but then it was like slowly building this connection and like the feeling, starting to able to sleep, and I had, my blood pressure went back, but there were times like eventually I went back to work, and there was like another time when they were toddlers. I think, right, my younger men maybe would have been 1 or so. And I had to have a hysterectomy. And so it's pretty common, like actually not pretty common for women in their 30s, but usually later people have pelvic prolapse. And that's what had happened to me. I just happened to be pretty young to have that surgery, and I needed that surgery. And so I had, again, I'm with 2 small toddlers. I had to have this major surgery, and I was working full time. My husband was working full time, and I kind of had like another breakdown, and I had to go seek therapy, and I got a lot of help. I got, a everything. I had to get just help for it. But that I do believe that like that postpartum, if you're not on top of it and you're like not seeking the help, it doesn't just go away. And for me, I feel like it can like come and go, you know what I mean? But I think I just want people to know, I guess, and talk about it, because I do remember, and I do think people are more now, like this is 10 years ago, right? I remember somebody was like, oh, I think one of the doctors was like, there's this support group you can go to. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go and be with people who feel this way. And I went to that support group, and you brought your baby, and I said what was happening, and I was honest. And Corey, they just looked at me like I was insane. And they, like, I felt so ashamed. Like, they just looked at me like I was
crazy. It was a postpartum group?
Yeah. But and they were talking about some other things, but I was just, but I remember walking out and feeling so, like, that for me, I was like, oh, that just reaffirmed everything I was already thinking in my shame. You know what I mean? I was like, oh no, I am a terrible person because I feel this way and think like this is happening. And so I just want like other people to know. And I have not worked with, but I've been able to kind of talk to other women who've had postpartum depression and go and like, sit with people and be like, you're okay. This is okay. You're not a bad person. You're not a bad mom.
That's great.
And it will pass. You know what I mean? But I just think it's so important. It's like, because it's probably that was the hardest time of anything. And I've been through a lot of shit. Like that was the hardest time in my life.
It's real. You're not this person that would ever harm their child or anything like that. This is a real, it's a thing that's overlooked.
Yeah. And
but how
just,
nice.
Like, and it's like,
you can reach out to others.
That you need to be able to say, we need to be able to talk to each other, because I can get how these women have things happen if they don't have something. I was lucky that I had people there to help me and help me get help for it. So anyways.
So the boys, 2 boys.
2 boys.
And so how old are they now?
11 and almost 13. And one is already 2.5 inches taller than me, and it's so bizarre.
And how do you feel about them now?
I love them. They're my best. They're my people. They're my people. They're my soulmates. I love them.
Do you do a lot with them?
Yes.
What
yes,
kind of stuff do you do with your boys?
You know what? We are a family of travelers. And we like to, that's mine and my husband's thing, I think, is that we live pretty modest lives because we save all our money to have experiences. And that's, I did not take vacations growing up.
Yep. So opposed to what? Do you sacrifice something else in order to have these experiences and
we're
adventures?
Still driving our old 2000, my first car that I ever bought with like my own money. It's 2005 Toyota Corolla. We still have it. We own it. We just bought our other, we just paid off our other car. And it's, we just pay off everything we can. I am not a fancy person. Not that everybody's fancy, but I dye my own hair at home. I don't do my nails. I'm not a big shopper. You know what I mean? Like we don't buy a lot of stuff, I guess.
Materialistic isn't a
but
priority.
Sometimes, not to say that we don't. Like, we do have some
extravagance
nice things. But it's not all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, we would rather just save that money and spend that money to go do something.
I think it's smart.
Yeah. And I think everybody's different.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like you got to figure out what makes you happy and what's important, And so that's what makes us happy. And that's,
What are some of the adventures you've been on? Where are some of your travels?
Okay, so
when did this start? After the postpartum, or did the traveling start later on in life?
This was actually pretty much when we moved here to Colorado. So like my husband and I went on a vacation by ourselves to Jackson, Wyoming. And that's when we fell in love with mountains. And so we were like, both of us, we're born and raised. I was born and raised Texan. He got there later. He was from California originally, but he lived there almost all his life. And so we had never really even seen mountains before. So we went on this vacation and we just fell in love. And it was like my mind was blown. It was like it
was beautiful.
Just no idea. Well, I had no idea that things could be that different. Like we'd been to beach before. We go to Mexico. Like if you live in Texas, you go on vacation, you go to the beach, you go to Mexico, right? Like that's pretty convenient to do that. And so we fell in love, and then we decided to move here. Like we were like, let's just put some resumes out. My husband was like, let's just see what happens. And you do those things sometimes in life where you're like, okay, and you just think in the back of your mind that's never going to happen.
Sure.
And then it happened, and then we were faced with that decision, and so we moved here. And then I think since being here,
what year was that?
It will be 5 years in 2020. So yeah, I guess maybe 2015. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm terrible with dates, but so I ended up. I remember our first trip. We went to Florida. I was like, we need to go on a family vacation, and so we just took a trip to Florida, and we made the best out of it. We just went to the Everglades. We Costco travel. That's the way to go, right? It was cheap. They give you. It was a nice hotel. We got a car. We went to the Everglades. My son loves alligators. We rode swamp boats, saw alligators, ate frog legs, ate alligator.
We've known each other since then, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's when the adventure started.
That's when the adventure started.
I remember that distinctly.
Yeah. And so we
3 years ago.
Yeah.
No, we've known each other longer than that now.
Yeah.
5 years ago. I knew you. Okay, keep going.
I didn't mean to interrupt. And so we did that, and then then after that, I was like, I want to go to Disney World, because when I was growing up as a kid,
that's right.
I was obsessed with going to, I really that was like a dream that I thought was never in the realm of a possibility for me. I thought that in my mind, I'm thinking I don't know, rich people go to Disney. That could never happen for me. I can't go to Disney World. And so I was like, I really want to go. And so we did. And we stayed 4 full days. We did a day at each park. And I had one of the most memorable moments with my older son. We were at Magic Kingdom, and the fireworks are going off, and it was so beautiful. And I was we were all looking at the fireworks with a bunch of people. And I was like, can you see to him? And he was like, yeah. And he was like, but what's more important? He's like, can you see? And I said, yeah. And he said, it's more important that you see, Mom, because this has been your dream since you were a little girl. And I just started crying. And I was just like, you're so sweet.
That was Ryan?
That was my older one.
Oh, it was Jake. Oh.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, it was so sweet.
Yes.
But then that was like probably, you know what? We had went on a vacation back in Texas to the beach, but those two particular vacations where we're like, oh, we're having fun. Like this family is fun. It's like the kids were older. It's not quite as much. They're not quite as much work. We're like, oh, we have fun together. And so we ended up doing that, and then we did it. This is the power of mind, right? Or I don't know, the power of words, but I don't know where my kids got this idea. But when they were younger, when they were little, they used to tell us, when we're 9 and 10, you're going to take us to Hawaii. And we were like, I don't even know where they came up with that. We're like, whatever. Okay. And then it happened. We went to Hawaii. And we were like, you guys like subliminally put this in our minds for so many years. And so we went on this trip. We did the whole big island and had just a great time. We stayed at like 3 different places all over the entire island. And then we did a luau. My kids really, really wanted to do one. They're pretty expensive. And so we sat through one of those damn timeshare things for free luau tickets just so they could go to the luau. But hey, I mean, that's again, like what you do to like if you save money, because it would have cost a lot of money to do that. But we had a great time. And then the next year we did our first European vacation, and that was amazing. We went over to England. So we stayed in London for a week in an Airbnb, and then we took a train up to Edinburgh, and we stayed there for about 5 nights, and then we took a plane to Paris and spent 2 days in Paris and then came home.
Wow.
And so that was amazing. Yeah. And my kids had the best time, especially going through all the museums, and they're obsessed with audio guides. And every place you go has audio guides. Yeah. And they're so long, and I don't have the attention span. So I was like, can we just go? And we just go. And everybody's like, wait, like holding their fingers up at me because they needed to listen to every single thing the damn audio guide.
Do you have any tips for families out there that want to travel, or do you have anything you'd want to share?
I don't know. My husband's working on doing a blog post about this kind of stuff, but I think the biggest thing is I think people get stuck thinking, because I know that that's how we were, of, oh, that's too difficult, or I don't have enough money, or that's too much work. Like a lot of people think doing stuff like that is work, where it is a limited amount of work. But we would just we saved our money, we planned, and we really just look for all the deals. Like Airbnbs are wonderful, and you can get, like in London, we got the pass. You can get this pass where you can visit, I don't know, like so many tourist attractions a day, and you just plan it all out, and you go, it just takes, if you just take the time to sit down and plan it and write it out, anybody can do those things. It's not anything unique or special. And we're definitely, by no means, we're not super rich people, but that's just what we make as our priority to do.
Cool. I love it. So you mentioned adventures with the family, right? Do you ever take adventures with just you and your husband?
Yeah. So we did that Wyoming trip. We have gone to Maui by ourselves for our anniversary. That was one we got his mom just had a friend there who had a house and let us stay at their house for free for a week, which is pretty nice. We've gone to San Francisco and done 3 or 4 days there and just hung out. We've gone backpacking together. That's something super cheap that anybody can do, you just take some planning and some work, but it's
where have you been
super
backpacking
fun.
Together?
We did it up in Rocky Mountain National Park on a few occasions up in Rocky Mountain National Park, which is amazing. And you and I have gone backpacking, which was an awesome adventure as well.
It was very awesome.
That I feel like all of us who survived that trip were badass women for doing that.
Agreed. That was really fun.
We went backpacking.
It was beautiful.
In
really
cold and mist.
Rain.
It was, it was
rain the whole time.
And very cold, and we couldn't have a fire.
Nope.
And some people even left. They were like, "We're out, we're gone," but we stayed.
Yeah,
And then the sun came out, and it was beautiful.
It was. It was
like
beautiful.
a one night of hell, but after that, we were gone.
Yeah, we were in good shape. So what else? So you've been you did a European adventure with your husband recently.
I did. No, I didn't.
Did you go to?
Oh, I went to Iceland.
Yes.
Like,
look at you. You have look at all. You have traveled a lot, girl.
Yeah, so we did. We went to Iceland. You know what? That is a tip. Here's a tip: go to places on their shoulder season. Because that's what we did with Jackson, Wyoming. And we were like going to places and people would tell us, oh, you'll have to wait. There's always a wait at that restaurant. We would go in, there would be no one in there. We booked a tour of Yellowstone National Park. We ended up getting a personal guided tour because nobody else booked a tour. Like nobody was there. And that's what we did with Iceland. So we went to Iceland in April and that's their shoulder season. And it was amazing. We saw the Northern Lights.
Aurora Borealis.
Yeah.
Aurora Borealis.
Yeah. The people there are amazing. They all speak. It's very weird because they all speak English. And they actually are surprised if you try to speak their language. But their language is the most foreign language that I've ever heard. And by that I mean like it sounds like they are just making shit up when they talk. Like I can't. I'm like my mouth can't even make the movements to
I've
say
seen some
the
of those
words.
signs. You know, like a road
but what
sign.
we learned is, and they're so nice. Everyone there's so nice. But what we learned is they're really small words all pushed together to make one big word. And that's how their words are. So it might be like if they're more descriptive, small descriptive words, all pushed together to make one long word, and that would be like the name of something. Like instead of saying like, I don't remember it, but I think Foss is like waterfall or something. So instead of saying like, you know, tall blue waterfall, it would be like they would just smash all their words together and make one big word. It's like a sentence smashed into a word. But we did the Game of Thrones tour there.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty cool. I'm pretty sad that's ended.
But you got to go.
We got to go.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have anything planned for the future?
Yes. Well, it's still very early, but we are in talks of actually, my husband's going to make fun of me, but we're in talks about trying to go to Amsterdam, Berlin, and Belgium for this summer. We'll see. We change our minds usually when we're planning a vacation. We start talking about a year in advance, and we usually change our mind about 10 times and it readjusts. But just this morning, we were walking dogs together, and we were talking about like where we were financially, and we're talking about because we do have. My husband's also very good. He's got the engineering brain, and so he's very good at, you know, doing our finances and keeping things in order. So we have like, you know, investment funds for college, investment funds for us, retirement, all these different things. So we're kind of talking about where we were and all these things. And then about retirement, because our goal is we want to be able to retire sooner than later. And we were talking about it, and I said, well, where should we be going when we retire? We should start planning that. He was like, we got home, he's like, you do realize that you just asked me to start talking about a possible vacation in like 20 years from now. I was like, I know.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be a lot of time. You're going to have seen the whole world by then.
I hope so. I don't know. But I am also like a big scaredy cat. I have a lot of fears of things, and I get real scared. And I think that traveling has helped me with that.
Yeah. What kind of things you scared of?
Lots of things. I am a little scared of flying, but I still do it anyways. I've gotten much better at it.
What do you do to calm yourself on a plane?
You know what? I have to listen to music. And so as soon as we like the engines start going, because I'll start feeling nauseous, and so I have to like and like everybody knows, like my family, like my kids trying to talk to me, and I'm just like I gotta put on my headphones, and I can't and I just have to breathe, and I need the air up all the way. I need to be cold.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's just kind of distraction thing. But then I'm afraid of bears, even though I love them, and somehow when I see them, I seem to go towards them. And
you have some bear stories. Why don't you share those bear stories with us?
So we
got
did
a couple.
Yeah, one of them was with you, even.
It was.
Yeah,
We wished for a bear and it came.
I know. I'm scared of them, but it's like it's my secret hope that I'll always see one. I always want to see one. But we did. We saw one in Yellowstone, and so I've got a great picture of that where it's like it was getting pretty close.
And you were with the family.
No. That was just me and Danny. And it was getting pretty close to us, and I got a good picture. Danny said, "Turn around," and so it almost looks like a selfie, but it's him taking the picture, and the bear's right there. And right after that picture, our guide said, "Lisa, you need to get in the car," because it wasn't paying attention to anybody. There were other people there, but it was kind of digging around in the ground. And then I was like, okay. And I got in the car and I quickly realized that all the windows were rolled down. And I was like, I can't roll up the windows because they were the car wasn't on. But the bear never came and did anything. And then a friend of mine we saw one. I went on a trip by myself to visit a friend, or we went to visit her family up in Rainier. And so we saw a bear there. We had been bear hunting, that's air quotes, but meaning AKA we wanted to just take pictures and see one as we were driving around. The night before, we never found one. And then that morning we were like going up to go hiking and we see one on the side of the road. And I was like, okay, let's stop. And then it kind of went down into this ravine and we couldn't see it. So I was like, let me look. And I get out of the car like a dummy and I'm trying to peek over and I don't see it anywhere. And so she's like, I'm going to move the car to the edge. She moves the car to the edge. I turn around to come back to the car and that bear is standing right at the passenger door of the car.
Oh my God.
She has no idea because she is ass out with her head digging into the car. And I go around to her side and I start just pushing her ass in the car. I'm like, get in the car. And she's like, what? I'm like, it's the bear. And then it walked around to the driver's side. And then we see it walk up, a few feet. And then all of a sudden, pop, 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 we see these baby heads pop up. And it had 3 cubs. And then they all just crossed the road and went by.
Oh
The mom bear was just like, I'm just trying to get my babies. But I look back on that and I think, oh my God, I would have been one of those dumbass people that you see.
Yep.
That
every year.
I know. And
I'm so,
sometimes
elk or something.
I was. I don't know what I was thinking. So do not do that, people. Do not get out of the car and look for the bear. Do not do it. And then you and we went driving around to see if we could see a bear, and sure enough, we did.
Yep.
And that was a little bear.
That was a little bear.
I'll
never forget it posing by the tree.
It was so cute. It was.
I couldn't believe
being
it.
the cover girl bear.
And we've gone quite the adventure driving around there in Aspen. That was a fun one in Maroon Bells. So that's funny. That's funny. Let's see. What else are you scared of?
I'm scared of snakes.
Scared of snakes.
But this year alone, I saw 7 snakes and 3 rattlesnakes. And I'll tell you a story about that one. So I was hiking with one of our mutual friends, and that rattlesnake, I heard it like right at my feet. And she turns around and she saw it. And she starts going, ah! So we just kind of start running. And I fell. And I fell down the side of the trail. So I jump up quickly. And Corey, in my mind,
Did it get you?
No. I was convinced, though, that I was like, oh, shit, what if I just fell on one? And so I got up so fast and started running towards my friend. And she's still screaming. And I know, I've been out here long enough. And I know that we are not food. They don't want anything to do with us. They don't want to come out. But in my mind, that snake was fucking chasing us. And so I was running and I was yelling, is it coming? Is it coming? And all I can think after we finally calmed down, because I knew it wasn't chasing me, but part of my brain thought it was.
Yes, fight or flight.
And all I can think of is if some other hiker was nearby and watching that, they probably thought we were.
I'm so glad you didn't hurt yourself when you fell. When you told me, because I know where you were, and there's a drop off right there.
No, I just got some scrapes. I was all right. I was all right.
Snakes.
So snakes, bears, sharks. I'm terrified of sharks.
How about birds?
Yes, I think they're basically dinosaurs. You cannot tell what they're thinking. They always just look at you but I've been attacked 3 times by birds.
Here in Colorado?
No. Well, I have that one bird still stalking me, so I don't know. That's to be TBD.
That mourning dove is stalking you.
Yes. But one time, so my dad had birds. And actually, I didn't always hate birds because one time I wanted a parrot. And he got me a
that
parrot.
Stuffed parrot. You really wanted that.
Yeah.
You went to any lengths
but
to
you know what, though? When we grew up,
thing.
though, in Texas, like when we were living at my grandpa's house, we had chickens and chicken coops. And this is going to sound great. But my grandpa, in his room, he had like the incubators with the eggs. And then mine and my brother's room, because we had to share a room, had boxes with heat lamps and baby chicks. And then we had chickens in the backyard. And some of those fucking roosters are really mean. They would chase you and peck you.
I believe
and my brother used to lock me in the chicken coop. And so, I mean, I think this bird thing has always
PTSD
been with
locked
me.
you in the chicken coop. Oh my God.
So, but my dad had a parrot one time and it flew off and he said, "Can you go put the parrot back on its perch thing?" And I pick her up and she's on my arm and I just knew. I'm like, she's about to attack me. He's like, "No, she's not." And she did. And she started biting me. And then one time at the zoo, you know how you can go in those atriums with the birds? And this little bird comes and it's like trying to give me like a leaf. And my dad is like, "Oh, it likes you. It likes you. And let's take a picture." And so I'm like posed and there's like some logs or something behind me that the bird was on. And I went to take that picture and it bit me on my ear.
Oh my God.
And then we've also been attacked by geese.
Oh yeah,
before.
they're dangerous.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's real.
Has a bird ever pooped on you?
Yeah.
I've only been pooped on a bird.
Yeah.
Seagulls.
I feel like, I don't know. If
I mean,
they know
a bird
that
has
I don't
pooped
like
on me.
them,
I've never pooped on a bird.
maybe they sense my fear.
You bet. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear it. Now I have that visual in my head.
I know. Stop. Erase your brains. Erase them. I'm sorry. So one time, what were you saying? What was
I
the
don't
story?
even know. I just
Your
feel
brother?
like I don't know. I don't know if they sense my fear or if it's a mutual hatred. I don't hate them, but they scared the shit out of me.
And that one that's stalking you outside your house, man. I saw it.
Yeah.
That
And then
morning
I
dog.
also have a fear of being kidnapped.
I want to ask you a serious question about that.
Yeah.
Have you ever been kidnapped?
I haven't been kidnapped.
Just locked in chicken coops?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a lot of other.
I used to get locked in closets, and then I'd go and do it to other people.
Yeah,
that's
we're so
awful.
mean.
Why
Yeah,
would I do
that's
that?
really
So
terrifying.
okay, well, thankfully you've
I've
never
always
been
had
kidnapped.
this. I remember being a little kid, and at one time I remember having to like walk to and from school. And I was just, I don't know. I've always had this fear that I was going to be kidnapped. And so my strategy has always been.
Well, they always warned us, right? Stranger danger.
Yeah.
Don't talk to strangers. So what's your strategy?
So my strategy is this, that if you see a car coming down the street, then I would just walk up to the house whatever house I was in front of, and pretend like that was my house and I was going in.
Did you actually do that?
Did I actually go into someone's
No,
house?
did that ever happen where you
Yeah,
pretended
all the
to?
time. And I still do it sometimes.
So whenever a car comes down the road, you just pretend.
If it looks suspicious, then I'm like, oh, this is my house. I'm just going back into my house. And sometimes I would hide in the bushes if I felt like I needed to.
Just hide in the bushes. Just hide in the bushes.
But one time I did call. I was at home alone because, back then you would home alone all the time. But one time I did call the cops because some lady was knocking at our door. I think this was when my dad was married to the air quotes rich woman. So we had like in a neighborhood, and I called the cops on her because she was like knocking at the door, and she was like, "I need to use your phone because I need to look at this house next door because it was for sale." I was like, "I'm not letting you in my house." And so I called 911, and then I remember my dad came home, and they all believed what she was saying, her story, and so they were like laughing at me that I called the cops on her, but I'm like, that bitch could have really been trying to steal me. I don't know.
Well, yeah, but why did she want to use? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I wouldn't have let someone in my house
No.
back then saying, "Let me use your phone," and I don't know them.
Yeah. It's creep. People are creepers.
Is there any other strategies you have? Have you ever taken martial arts now that you're an
I
adult?
want to. I have looked them up.
I've turned you down.
You have turned me down. I want some. I don't know. I just need
I
to
just go
do
right
it.
for the balls.
I think I'm pretty scrappy. I have been in some fights before, so I do feel like I'm pretty scrappy, and I do feel like I mean, I definitely.
I don't know. I wouldn't mess with you, to be honest.
I would be no holds barred.
I'd be scared of you.
I would be going for the eyes. I would be biting. I would pee on them I would poop on them if I had to.
Your stalker bird. Would you poop on your stalker bird?
I would do it. But I do have like a little alarm on my keychain, and then I carry one on my backpack.
That loud thing. Oh,
yeah.
I pressed one of those once at a client's house. Yeah. I had no idea what it was.
It's very loud.
Yeah,
I want
loud.
some weapons, but I feel like I don't know, like mace or something. I'm afraid like one of the kids will get it and accidentally spray themselves, and so
I carry a giant shank.
You carry a machete in your door of your car.
I do. I carry that giant sharp knife in my car. It was my grandma's.
Your grandma.
I found a switchblade, a McGuckin's switchblade down there on Canyon. I could give you that. You can have that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'll give it to you after the show.
But yeah, and so I do feel like, I mean, I'm not afraid to fight. I would definitely.
No, you're
but
badass.
What I have heard, and one of our mutual friends who did take one of those self-defense classes, she said that she learned that they say that you should make yourself dead weight, so you're harder to pick up, right? If someone's trying to like actually abduct you, like
what if he's
just
strong? He's just pick you up and thanks
like,
for just going limp.
It's harder, I guess, if you're
really.
Like, and then you can also fight. I don't know. I've heard so many stories about other, because I'm obsessed with true crime and I love listening to all these other podcasts on that kind of stuff. And so I feel like I have a good bit of knowledge from that, but I haven't had to practice. Maybe Travis could pretend to kidnap me one day and I'll try and I'll see what happens. I'm just kidding.
We'll make you wear a cup.
Do
you know much about this Krav Maga?
I don't. I looked at it.
It's a military self-defense fighting system developed by the Israel.
I want to check it. You know what? We should make that part of this. I
want you to go, and then you just tell me.
Why don't you want to go?
Like.
Are you scared? Do you not want to? Are you scared to go?
I feel scrappy.
You just feel like you're good?
I feel scrappy.
You're like, I got this.
No, I feel scrappy, and my big knife. I'm like, I'll gut you from your forehead down to your middles. Yeah. But no, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm the one who wouldn't do well in a fight.
Who wouldn't do well?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you want to go get trained so that you would do well?
Well, that's a good
part
question.
Of the training, though, is because like I feel like I'm scrappy, but you never. I think the training also helps you to like kind of realize because you don't know what you're going to be thinking necessarily if it's actually happening to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know why I don't want to do it. That's a good question. I need to meditate on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I know you want me. I know if I said okay, I'll go. You
and I
would be there
we'd
tomorrow.
be on it. We'd be on it. And I do want to. I might. I'm going to put it on my Christmas list because I think sometimes I am so cheap, and then I'm like, I see how much they cost, but then I'm like, well, that would be really crappy if I did get abducted, and I'm like, damn it, I didn't spend that $300 to take that class.
Yeah, that would be crappy. I'd be like, Lisa, fuck. That would not. Oh my God, the conversation, Lisa. Why didn't we do it? Oh, we could have given them the Adam's apple slice or whatever that is. I don't know what that is. That thing.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I mean? Anyway.
But I think like you go for the soft parts too. Like I know it sounds gross and it makes me want to vomit thinking about it. But you got to shove your fingers in their eyeballs.
Yeah.
I would pop their eyeball out.
So at
eat it and spit it at them. Just kidding.
So we can practice this somewhere? Where do we get to practice this?
Well, I don't know if you get to practice the eyeball part. We could make it up our own. We could get a pumpkin and carve it and put some grapes in there.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Throw the head at us and then or Travis wears.
But I do think there are places where they have like the guy dress up in the full padded suit and then you can like beat him. I think it might be kind of cathartic to just beat the shit out of someone.
Yeah.
Without hurting them. Like I don't want to go beat someone up, but if there's some man in a big giant thing that he can't get hurt and then I can just punch on him, then I want to do that.
I got mixed feelings about it.
I don't know. You think about it.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. I don't know. Well, it's fascinating. I am intrigued.
All right.
I'm very intrigued. And I will fully support you.
All right.
And then maybe I'll join you if you think it's really cool.
Okay.
But yeah. All right. Well,
All
Lisa,
right.
you got anything else for us today?
I don't think so. I feel like we covered.
You got a dad joke for us?
I don't. I'm not very good at memorizing things.
Oh, come on.
I forget things. I just laugh at them and then I forget about them. But I will post. I'll find the dancing goats in llama thing and I'll put that up because it's the best thing I've ever seen in a long, long time.
I'm looking up a dad joke. I don't get them. I don't even get them
because they're too simple.
Oh, here we go. How do you make holy water? How do you make holy water?
How?
You boil the hell out of it. I bought some shoes from a drug dealer. I don't know what he laced them with, but I was tripping all day.
That's great. I don't believe you don't like it.
All right.
All right.
Did you know the first French fries weren't actually cooked in France?
Where were they cooked?
They were cooked in Greece. All right, they are funny.
Right.
They're funny.
They are funny.
I could keep going. All right. All right, well, that was great. Thank you, Lisa, for coming.
All right.
It's nice to learn a little bit more about you.
Yes.
And
yes.
this was wonderful. I think
it was
you're
wonderful.
fantastic.
We
You've
needed
really,
to ask people, please subscribe to us. Help us out. That
Please,
gets us seen by others. We want to spread the word. So subscribe to our podcast.
Bird is the word.
Bird. Bird is the word. I sing that to my son all the time because I nicknamed him Bird. So I say that to him all the time.
All right. Well, let's tune in next week. Thanks for listening.
Later.
Peace.
If you have an interesting story, something funny, something sad, something you want the world to know, please email us. We want you to share your experiences with us. We'll take these, we'll collect them, we'll do some episodes sometimes where we'll read them. So if you want to be anonymous, please just let us know. We won't read your name. If you want your name read, then we will. But send us those stories, comments to info@herturntotalkpodcast.com. And we also ask if you like what you're hearing, please rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you.